Kia ora, my name's Matt and I'm building a 1917 Sopwith Camel. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you again at the end. Been making these. They're brackets, they hold drift struts on the spars, or rather between the spars, to help keep the spars the right distance apart from each other. So they're made out of 16 gauge steel, and there's a I think a square, if I'm righty, piece of tubing that goes on the front that actually holds the drift strut itself. These ones are hand filed into shape, and I'm about to have a go with using the mill beside me here to do it instead. In particular, the top face and the bottom face, which need to be parallel to each other. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to use the mill for drilling operations and that sort of thing. But if you haven't got parallel sides, or at least one parallel edge, it makes it really difficult to zero things out in the mill. So I'm going to give that a go on the ones I've yet to do, and I've got about a dozen of these guys. These are just all blanks. So on top here, I've got the piece I'm about to work on. That's the bottom parallel, which is useful to a point, but of course that bottom edge of this isn't parallel. So I've got to keep that in mind before I start doing anything. But that's the parallel at the bottom, which will hold that. What I've then got is, because this is thinner than this parallel, I also need something to wedge it up against this back face. So here's two more parallels which are parallel with each other, and another parallel on top. So now when I close the vise up, I get even pressure on the piece I'm working on, and that should be held nice and firm now. But you can see the pin mark across that top there. And that's what I want to try and trim it down to. Once I've got that, and I'll probably do it in all the blanks that I've got, then I'll reset the vise. I now have a known reference point, and I can then make the top side parallel, the correct distance away from the bottom side. This all sounds a little bit complex. Yeah, it is. So wish me luck, and I'll crack on. Just about to cut the last of these ones to get that top parallel with the bottom at exactly 7/8 of an inch. I'd say exactly, but I'm using that term loosely. I'm still getting the hang of this thing. It's getting better, and yeah, I'm just going to crack on with this one. We'll see what this one comes out like. Pretty much the machine's set up, everything's locked down in place, but the variation I'm getting at the moment, even with everything locked in place, is between I work in millimeters, so 22.25 millimeters is 7/8 of an inch, and again between that and 22.3 millimeters. Not sure why, but I'm going to give this one a go, see what this one comes out at. There's an incredible amount of cleanliness required for this. You can see everything. Yep. Clean out the bed. Bottom one's hard up against that. Take what I'm about to do. I've marked the bottom edge, make sure that's clean, the back's clean. It all makes a difference when it comes to the final result. Clean that in there. This is the one I'm using as the clamp. So again, clean the front face, clean the bottom faces, get rid of any dust that's accumulated. There's a bit of swarf in the bottom of that. Get rid of that. Don't care about the top of the sides because they're not contacting anything. The bottom faces and the front face. Get me up, put that up, push it up against the piece I've got. One end closed. Pushing down on the part, make sure it beats properly. Nice and firm. Most vices apparently lift up at the very last minute. And the recommendation is check the piece you're actually sitting on, and you can see that moves. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that's moving. So in order to make sure that's actually seated properly, it's a copper faced hammer, single sharp blow, and that's now firm. So that's seated correctly, and that way I think the theory is you get repeatability. So now when I cut it, it should come out exactly the same as the previous ones, except in getting variation in the previous ones. So maybe it's something else I haven't quite locked down properly yet. They're all within tolerances, so I'm not too phased about it, but it's just trying to get things accurate. So that was a single pass, get it down to where I wanted to get. Cool, just got rid of the swarf, or burrs rather. It's nice and smooth. 22.2. So that's with an acceptable tolerance in my mind, at least anyway. And I've been filing these, and this is one I've just finished filing. And I've been wondering, as you do when you're filing, whether I can get this done in the mill. I'm about to give it a go. So my cunning plan is I've got a block of aluminium attached as a spacer. I've secured the block with this hold down piece. First time I've used these, so a bit like that'll work. I've taken the angle required, which is, I'll show you a blank one, here we go. So it's between, get my finger in the shot, here we go. So it's between that point there and the top arc of the circle, and you want a line across there. So I've measured that, that appears to be 13 degrees. So I've set this up and anchored it at a 13-degree rake, across that away. And on the end of that, and hopefully we can see that okay, I've then secured one of the pieces I need to do, and that's parallel with this, but hanging over the edge. So that should induce a 13-degree rake in this part here and chew that little piece off. Fingers crossed. I'll approach it slowly just to see what happens, and I'm hoping that this hanging into space doesn't affect things too much. I don't know, I'm about to find out. Definitely wasn't tight enough, that's gone askew. I'll straighten out and put a bit more pressure on it and see how we go. Well, that works. It's not sure it's any quicker than filing, but that could be a practice thing. I've redrawn the circles so they appear to about match most, and I've now got to of course file off the corners and turn those into circles. But yeah, I'll keep persevering because I suspect it's a practice thing. It's the setup that takes all the time. The actual cutting's pretty quick. Yeah, jury's out, but it's more fun than filing, so I'll keep going. Just got half of a metal order in today. I'll show you what I've got here. So this is a bunch of pipe. I actually wanted the smaller stuff, but I took the option to order these longer pipes in anticipation of needing them later. The longer ones actually for, I believe they're called drift tubes. They fit between the swing spars and help to hold them apart. And I need That's one size, need 8 of those, and need 12 of these larger ones. It's actually 13 there, so I've got a spare one. So what I'm looking at these and thinking, well, how am I going to store this for the couple of years or more that I might need before I actually put a wing together? So I'm looking, having done a bit of Googling, and come across a product which we used to use in my teenage years, working on cars, called fishy. And that apparently works. You just got to flood the inside of it with fishy, drain out the excess, let it rest, and that'll dry, and that'll provide a pretty good seal, rust-proof seal for the inside. On the outside, I'm going to basically paint them. These are all over length, so they need cutting to size, but I'll basically prep the outside, wipe them all down, give them a good solid coat of paint, and then with the fishy inside, paint on the outside, they'll be good to be stored for however long is needed. These other ones I need for the various brackets I'm working on. I'll show you the one I'm working on at the moment, which needs these two. So that's over here. So these hold wooden drift struts. So let's put that down for a sec. This is 1/4 inch square, and a short version of it gets welded to the centre of that. And there's bolts that go either side, and at the end of it on the wings is another hole which helps retain the Y strainers inside the wing. And the other piece, this one, this is also a tube. That'll be used to make bushings, which then sit on the end of these. So that'll be interesting, because I'm going to check this out with others, sound them out, but I believe I need to heat treat these, then make a hole slightly smaller than the tube by a couple of thousandths of an inch, which then allow me to have a press fit between this as a bushing and that. So lots of unknowns in this, so I've done a bit of reading on it, and I'm going to go sound out a couple of people before I actually do it for real. And in the process of making those, I've got these three here which are no good, filing errors and that sort of thing. So I've marked them up as being no good, and I'll use those as practice pieces, which will be useful for both the welding as well as pressing in the bushings and the bending as well. Yeah, so just pottering. I'm working on a variety of random stuff at the moment, largely because there's lots of different skills required, which I haven't yet got. For example, the skill of welding, I don't have that. Bending, I need to create bending jigs, and I'm slowly working up to getting the skills for that in the mill by doing a whole bunch of other stuff on the mill, learning how it works and all that type of blather. Fortunately, I'm not in a hurry. I'm just working out as I go. But that, of course, means I've got several different brackets on the go at the same time. Not quite what I planned, but hey, it is what it is. Right, about to get stuck into these. Kind of want to get these done and out the way, because they're going to sit in storage for a while. I don't want them on the bench. I've got far too much on the bench at the moment. So the broad plan is I'm going to treat them a little bit like rifle barrels. Drop a weight down the centre with a string attached to it. Have a rag tucked into the loop on the other end, and dip that rag in the terps, squeeze it out, and then draw it through. This may or may not be the right size rag, just pull through rags, just got to figure it out as you go. First pull of first rod. So yeah, there's a bit of crud in this. It's probably stuff to stop it from rusting, but hey, got to clean it out in order to get the fish oil in. Right, I've pulled through these a few times, quite a few times. Now there's a large stack of used rags. That was the last time I pulled through. It's definitely off-white. There's still stuff inside it, but it's a darn sight cleaner than it was. And I think that'll be fine. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to put some heavy-duty fish oil, deodorized, down through the centre. I'm going to try and coat the entirety of the centre, decant it back out. So with that said, this is going to look a little bit awkward, because it will be, and I'll be first go using my thumb to seal off the ends. So yeah, crack on, see how we go. deodorised, but I can still smell fish. That's the pile of pull-through rags. There was a lot of work involved making those dirty. Back to working on this piece, in particular the strap, and I want to get the lightning slot cut so I can get this under oil. I'll sit on it for a while after that because I need to weld a bolt onto the bottom, and my welding skills are 0 at the moment, so I need to build up some skills in that, and that'll be probably sometime in the next few weeks. That looks like a mess. Yeah. So I'm about to get the file out. Towards the end, what I found the problem was the vise was gripping these two sides and compressing them inwards, and I started getting very close to the paradiddle, so I didn't touch them, but yeah, so I'll finish that off in the vise with some hand filing. After a bit of hand filing, that's looking a lot better. I can get it better than this though, I'm sure I can for the next one. This one's looking a lot better, a lot better. So I've got us about as far as I want to go with this, so I'm going to take it off and tackle it with the file. Right, that's these 4 finished. Next stage, I'm about to oil these up and put them in the stack of oiled parts. Just waiting for paint to dry. This is about half the steel tubes I've done. So they're all wiped down. Half primered, as you can see I've got to do the other half. But I'll just waiting for the top half to dry. And the stuff I'm using is some sort of DeWalt product, but a zinc phosphate primer. Got a few more sticking out of the fence over there. So yeah, not exciting, but at least it's once it's done, it's done. So the way I can pack these away and leave them until I start actually assembling wings. That's the drift tubes all done. I'll break them up in baking paper. I figured that won't hold moisture and it should stop them from knocking together and chipping the primer. Fresh sheet steel for the wing brackets and other bits. Got a hooer of a bend in the corner there, but that's okay. I can cut around that. But yeah, so I'll try and break that down over the next couple of days to the right size and oil it up until I can get around to actually making the brackets themselves. It's interesting how what you assume will be a simple job turns out to be not quite so simple. In this case, cutting out these little guys. So that sits in there, gets welded on, which is going to be another story, welding. But meantime, cutting these guys out. I'm not going to show you a video of this, I'll just talk you through it. But you can see I've got a bandsaw here. It cuts off a slice, 3/8 of an inch wide. A couple of issues. My bandsaw is old, second hand. It doesn't cut straight, and at the moment it throws its blade whenever I start. Well, whenever I get past that first layer of steel. Not sure why. I'm going to try using cutting fluid on it next and see if that makes it work any better. But once I've got that done, even before I do that, I've actually got to square off this end. So I've got a square end to work with. So next step is actually take this bar to the mill, square off that end, then cut it, because I'm going to end up with a non-square cut on it. Then I've got to bring it over to the mill, mount it here. What I've been doing, there may be a better way of doing this, but I haven't come across it yet. It's just been making stuff up on the fly. But I've been squaring it up against those two flats there. This one's not 1/4 of an inch high, it's closer to 3/8 of an inch high. But what I've figured I'd give a go next going to be a little while's time, is I'll weld that to the bracket first, then I'll put the entire bracket in the mill and just carefully mill off the top and see if that works, because that'll give this much more stability, and the bracket is something I can really grip hold of in the mill. So that's the current thinking. I may change that, but yeah, that's what I'm currently thinking. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Just as a bit of a teaser, here's a shot of a couple of smaller camels I'm working on for a childcare centre. Hope to have finished the next day or so. I'll catch you next time.